It's being reported recently that Putin's regime is now resorting to basically what in the 18th century in Britain would have been called press ganging, which was a term used to describe basically getting men drunk and then beating them up and forcing them to join the Royal Navy, which was a pretty absurd recruitment method when you think about it. But I'm just going to read this out because it's disturbing, and I hope it's a wake up call. I hope it's a wake up call for anyone around the world who's been defending Russia, because so far most of the criticism of Russia has come from the West, but the victims of what I'm going to talk about are predominantly from countries that have an ambiguous attitude to this. So I hope it, makes people realise just how ghastly the Putin regime is. This report is by Michael Day, the chief foreign commentator of the Eye. Russia forces foreigners to fight its battles abroad. Russia has reportedly begun press ganging people from across the world to fight its battles in Ukraine and Africa. Ukrainians in the occupied territories have been forced into carrying out the Wagner private mercenary group's military operations in African countries such as the Central African Republic, Niger, and Mali, the Ukrainian National Resistance Centre, UNRC, says. Wagner still operates even though Prigozhin is dead. Conscripts who are offered a salary of 240,000 rubles, which is about £2,050, to fight and perform mining operations in Sahel countries, the UNRC reported. It noted that recruiting from illegally held territory is a flagrant breach of international humanitarian law. The claims follow myriad reports that Russia is press ganging people from across the world to fight its illegal war in Ukraine, as well as exploiting mineral-rich African countries. Last week, Sky News reported that several Indian men claimed they had been forced into fighting for Russia in Ukraine. The men claimed they were arrested by Russian authorities for violating visa laws and told to either serve for a year in the Russian military or face 10 years in prison. My God, I mean, what a choice to have. The family said that after less than 15 days of training, they were sent to the front line. Christopher Took, reader in strategic studies at King's College London, said there is a logic behind the practice of enrolling foreigners. Russia needs manpower, but has also sought to shift the burden of providing that manpower away from Russian metropolitan areas. Russia's current method of warfare requires mass more than it requires skill, so the limited capabilities and poor motivation of these troops hardly matters. According to Ukraine's coordination headquarters for the treatment of prisoners of war, KSHPPV, a government agency, Russia has increasingly turned to foreign mercenaries from countries with difficult economic situation to provide cannon fodder. I mean, how low can you get? The KSHPPV spokesman Petro Yatchenko presented mercenaries from Nepal, Cuba, Somalia, and Sierra Leone captured by Ukrainian forces at a press conference last month, urging the countries to prevent their citizens from being recruited to fight for Russia. The Institute for the Study of War said the Russian military was mitigating likely increased manpower and material losses as it uses thousands of poorly trained troops to break down Ukrainian defences. That bit about avoiding recruitment from Russian metropolitan areas to me is significant because if there's going to be any pushback against the Putin regime domestically, it will be from the big cities, Moscow, St. Petersburg, Novosibirsk, and so on. I mean, this is utterly despicable, where you get poor men in countries like Nepal, India, Sierra Leone, using them for cannon fodder in a war that they have no business being in. What I find striking is the contrast. When this war broke out, I mean, the invasion stage of the war broke out, and there was a recruitment drive for the Foreign Legion of Ukraine, and men from around the world volunteered to fight in Ukraine, including numerous Britons. That was about come and fight for us. There was no press gang, and there was no forced coercion. There was no, exploiting men in poor countries. Um, the guys who went out there genuinely felt it was the right thing to do, and I consider them all heroes. But there was no press ganging involved. Now, there might be an argument that they were naive, there might be an argument that they should have thought it through, but fundamentally that just shows the different approach between Ukraine and Russia. Russia's resorting to these vile press ganging techniques, whereas Ukraine is trying to inspire people. Um, Incidentally, I've seen some of the Russian propaganda on this. Total lies. It just shows them that it's a relaxed life where they're not facing danger. Um, I just told this is actually a photograph. I think this is from captured conscripts. If you look, none of them are Russians. That's incense burning, by the way. Yeah, so that's what the Putin regime is doing at the moment. If this isn't a wake up call for the rest of the world, I don't know what is. So, when Indians or people in African countries want to defend Putin, this is what he's doing to your compatriots, using them as cannon fodder in a European battlefield.